Deep down in the bluest part of the ocean was the kingdom of the Mer people. The grand palace of their king was made of coral, seashells, and pearls. But the greatest treasure the king possessed were his 6 beautiful daughters. His youngest daughter was the loveliest and most beloved of them all. The littlest mermaid loved listening to stories about the human world from her grandmother. How she wished to go and see the humans for herself. "Oh, when may I go see it, grandmother?" she asked eagerly. Her grandmother always told her that she could swim up once she turned 15. The little mermaid could hardly wait. The little mermaid's 15th birthday arrived. How very happy she was! She put on her most precious jewels, combed her long hair, and polished her silvery scales. Her sisters led her up to the surface and through the waves. She burst through the water into the open air. What a wonderful feeling, she thought. The little mermaid saw a ship sailing in the distance. She swam in for a closer look. On the ship's deck, the sailors were singing and dancing. One of the sailors just happened to be a handsome prince. The little mermaid had never seen anyone so intriguing. It was love at first sight. Just then, the sky began to darken. Lightning streaked through the clouds, and the wind and water tossed the ship back and forth. An enormous wave broke the ship in half, and everyone on board was tossed into the sea. The ship sank down into the depths of the ocean. The little mermaid swam quickly to help the handsome prince. The little mermaid reached the prince just in time. Slowly but surely, she brought him to dry land, carefully keeping his head above water, until finally she lay the unconscious prince on a sandy beach. She was sure that he needed more help, but the little mermaid could not take him any farther onto the land, for she did not have legs. An hour passed before the little mermaid heard someone coming down the nearby road. The little mermaid dashed back into the sea, lest she be seen by a human. A horse and carriage came to a halt near the prince, and an old crone climbed down to inspect the young man. She dragged the prince into her carriage and continued down the road. The little mermaid was glad that the prince had been found, but her heart was heavy, for she might never see him again. Weeks passed, and the little mermaid would swim to the beach where she had left the prince, and spend her day resting on a rock, hoping to see him again. If only she were human, she could go inland and find him. The little mermaid asked her grandmother if she knew of any way a mermaid could become a human. Her grandmother told her that she had never heard of such a thing, and that she should forget the human prince. The little mermaid was disheartened, but realized that if her grandmother did not know, maybe she should visit someone who could, someone who knew magic. The little mermaid went to visit the sea witch who lived in the darkest part of the ocean. The fearsome sea witch listened to the mermaid's plight. She told her of a potion that would make her human, but in addition to the terrible pain having legs would cause, the potion would also make her mute and unable to talk. "I don't care," the mermaid replied. "I would do anything to be with my prince." The mermaid drank the potion in one gulp. The sea witch was moved by the mermaid's love and gave her a magic wand to use should her need become dire. The little mermaid thanked the sea witch and then passed into unconsciousness. When the mermaid opened her eyes, she found she was on the steps of a palace, lying in the arms of the handsome prince. The prince asked who she was, and when the little mermaid tried to respond, no sound escaped her lips. Just as the sea witch had told her, she could not speak. The kind prince took pity on her and brought her inside the palace. The palace was full of many splendors, and even though she was in great pain from having legs, she was happy with the prince. One day, a princess came to visit the palace. The king was eager for the prince and princess to marry. "After all," the king said, "any woman who rescues my son from a shipwreck will make a fine queen." The little mermaid was confused. She had seen an old crone take the prince from the beach that day, not a beautiful princess. Something was not right, and she was going to find out what it was. The little mermaid decided to spy on the beautiful princess. Late at night, when everyone else was asleep, the princess left her rooms and crept into the prince's chambers. The little mermaid followed. She peered into the room and saw the princess sitting beside the prince, chanting a spell, and as she did, she transformed from a lovely maiden to the old crone the mermaid had seen on the beach. The princess was really a witch. The little mermaid shook with fear, but knew that she would have to act if she was going to save her prince. The mermaid remembered the sea witch's gift. She held the wand high and pointed it at the crone. The crone looked up, saw the little mermaid's spell coming, and disappeared in a shower of flames. The mermaid let out a cheer. The prince awoke from the sound of the mermaid's voice. "You can talk," he exclaimed. The little mermaid did not know how or why, but her voice had returned, and the pain of having legs had stopped. She quickly told the prince what had happened, and how deeply she loved him. The prince was happy to hear this, for he had wanted to marry her since he had first found her, weak and pale, on the steps of his palace. The prince told his father of his happiness, and the king agreed to the marriage. The Mer-King was proud to have such a brave daughter, and suggested to the prince's father that their children have a grand wedding beneath the ocean waves. The kingdoms of the land and sea were joined as never before, and the little mermaid and her prince lived happily ever after.